Hey guys, I wanted to bring up the age-old problem of gatekeeping again. Now, I think that in Lost Ark, we are in an unfortunate situation where gatekeeping will just never be fixed, and it can't be fixed. And I want to talk a little bit about that. So, the fundamental design of the game makes you really strapped on time. You need to do 18 raids in a week for the most part if you have a full roster of 6, and these raids just keep getting harder and harder and harder. While I'll say there are less mechanics in the game where if one player dies, the entire raid wipes, right? Like Gate 5 Brel, for example. If one player died, you're just done because you wouldn't be able to do both the shape mechanics. And, for most parties that are on item level right now, right? Let's say in a raid like Hardacon, it has a pretty tight DPS window. So even if somebody dies, and let's say, in a con generally, you don't have to wipe if somebody dies. You can still keep going. But by the end of the raid, you're very likely going to run into Berserk. I'd say that Lost Ark really doesn't show any indication of gearing the game towards more of a casual audience. Everything they've been doing in terms of like new content, new updates, and kind of future outlook in the game is really focused around vertical progression. And with a raid like Theamine, it was literally a boss that most players couldn't clear unless they spent countless of hours, countless of days grinding and grinding and grinding until they actually were able to clear the raid. And even then, many players couldn't even clear it until they nerfed the boss. That's really our game. That's Lost Ark. They cater the game towards a very much hardcore audience. And despite, I'd say, like, for the most part, the most successful MMOs are ones that have avenues for both casual players and hardcore players to have fun, I'd say in general, Lost Ark really is a game where most casual players just quit the game very early on because they get gatekept, they can't clear a raid, they can't do something. Lost Ark is a very mechanically intensive game. It's a very, in my opinion, again, a competitive game where people are always comparing damage, people are always trying to push things to the limit, people are always trying to min-max. That this kind of mid-level casual audience really has no room in this game. And as a result, the game never really grows that much. If you think about it, our game pretty much has just been dropping in population since the beginning of the game, right? Since the game came out. And while I think this is a problem with every MMO definitely, slowly but surely dies, unfortunately, which is a topic on its own. I think that Lost Ark has an even more extreme, level of problem in this area, just because it really doesn't cater to the majority. Really, the only people who are, I'd say, having a ton of fun with the game are people who are really looking for those hardcore fights, people who are looking to push things to the limit, people who are week after week going into the same raids, trying to see if they can improve their damage, right? Trying to min-max things, trying to be better and improve themselves. Instead of that person who's just trying to, get their raid done, clear it. All right, done. I don't care if I get top DPS or not. I don't care if I get radiant support or not. Those people aren't really catered to in this game. And you can see it too. Like, Lost Ark doesn't do a good job of teaching players how to actually play the game. There's no guides in the game for, people to learn how to DPS. There's no real way for players to build on their fundamentals. There's no guide saying oh, during this boss, here are some good areas to, DPS, or these types of mechanics work this way or that way. You have the training room, but that's just so, I guess, fundamental that it's not applicable in a real raid, right? You can't just go into Vulcan, Vicus, whatever, at the moment at least, solo. You can't go into a con solo and practice those patterns. Now, granted, there are solo raids coming out in the future, right? And that will probably help with some things, but it's really different when you're playing a game solo in a raid. I used to bust a ton, and playing a raid by myself was a completely different experience than playing in a raid in a group. Because in a group, the boss is a lot more unpredictable in its patterns, because how aggro works is it always aggroes to one player, right? And players are always in different positions of the boss. A lot of times there are a lot of people in the back, but at the same time, sometimes players are positioned in different locations. It's not always that they're in the back. So in those cases, the boss is a lot more random, and as a result, it's not really a real simulation of an actual fight. So what does solo raiding content actually help with? Well, I'd say that for the most part, it probably helps with mechanics, because you can see the fight through and learn these mechanics. But I would argue that for the most part, I don't see players messing with mechanics that much. Maybe they mess up on mechanics once, twice in a raid, but they learn pretty quickly and like have watched all the guides already, so they know what the mechanics are. And people aren't really messing up on mechanics. They mostly just mess up because they're dying to some random attack, or their damage is low, so people would flame them for that. Like, I don't think mechanics are the problem, which is, I think the main thing that these solo raids will solve. I really just think that in order to fix gatekeeping or remove it, the game just needs to be completely restructured from the ground up to actually, cater more towards a less hardcore audience, and also make it so that there is more avenues for newer players to learn the fundamentals of the game. It just doesn't exist in the game at the moment, and I think that it will probably never exist given the kind of philosophy and design, the game design and direction that the Lost Ark team has for the game. I don't know. That's just me, though. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree, or do you think there are other ways for us to, or the Lost Ark team to prevent gatekeeping? Build something into the game that makes so there's no more gatekeeping. I'd be curious. Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, hit the sub button, ring the bell for notifications. And also, I stream on twitch.tv/MisoXshiru, twitch.tv/MisoXshiru every day at 10 p.m. PST. I also multi-stream on YouTube, so you can catch me on both platforms. But other than that, hopefully I'll see y'all in my stream. But if not, hopefully I'll see y'all on the next video. Alright guys, have a good night. Peace out.